welcome back to another special edition of the Roundtable for the first time, the HNLT Tonight Show. And we have the crew back together. I think the last time was like a month ago. And we have Michael DeVilleneuve directly from Nashville, Austin, Texas. I'm not sure, somehow, somewhere. We have Marko from Ottawa. And of course, ENORTAP from Toronto, Ontario. Welcome back, all of you. Thanks to join us for an amazing, great show we have for everybody here in the house at the Hockey Nation Live show.
Should be lots of fun.
Thanks so much, Michael. Maybe you came from a tournament or something like you've been last week, I believe, in Texas, if I can recall it. Dallas?
Arizona, actually. So it was.
Oh, Arizona.
Yeah, we were scouting. I was scouting the 2008 birth year.
Did you follow the UA17 or the recently or?
I haven't not. I really honestly like we draft, the 2008 birth year this year, so it's all 14-year-olds bantam.
I see. That's good to hear that. Wow. That's awesome. Hey, Michael, of course, we want to welcome a couple of people in the house tonight before we go through the different subject. We have Mr. RJ Calabro is in the house, ladies and gentlemen. RJ, all the update. 2-1 Ottawa. 2-1 Ottawa versus the Buffalo, and the Blues take the lead 4-2 tonight against Chicago. Blues are getting a little bit better and better. Will be interesting how we're going to see this tonight. And then our friend Randy Walkman is in the house from Calgary.
Hey,
welcome,
Randy.
Mr. Randy.
Hey, Randy.
Our friend from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Dan Asham, Khaled Asham, are with us tonight, maybe in the snow. Who knows?
The man from Winnipeg, Dan, welcome.
And it's not snowing over there for sure because he's from Texas. Joseph Laham with the Devils are looking great.
Very good.
And we have Mickey B. Welcome back, Mickey B. Honestly, I wish I know where you're coming from, but all right, I'm going to tell you you come from Canada. Chicago Bear fan 97 is in the house from Illinois, a little bit upset about the second period of the Blackhawks Chicago. We have more people in the hat. Don't forget, guys, click on the likes. That'll be awesome. And we're going to go through this fun conversation we have tonight and around the NHL. We're going to give at the end of the show, guys, the orange awards and the lemon awards, one for each category on the player and on the team and join the show. We'll talk about a little bit surprise team players, and definitely, we're going to ask if you have any question, put the little Q. We're going to go through this almost at the half of the show, talking about fun question you have. And then, of course, each one of you guys, you're going to bring one subject you want to talk about and NHL the next couple of minutes until the first time. We welcome Alan Barnes, William McClary is in the house. And thank you so much to be with us tonight. The first thing we're going to talk about, guys, the Montreal Canadiens. Let's talking that way. And maybe each one of you have comments about the Montreal Canadiens yesterday, possibly about the game yesterday, and then you can talk about other subject about the Montreal update if you want to talk. Let's start with Mr. ENORTAP.
Well, just based on yesterday's game, I mean, we were very inflated, I guess, with the way Montreal have been playing, and justifiably so. They had been playing very good hockey. But when you go up against a team that has the similar kind of speed and probably better and has a lot of offensive guns like the New Jersey does right now, eventually it overtook them. And you saw them also, I guess that speed also created a lot of turnovers for Montreal in a negative way, and they capitalized, and we should have probably had a slightly better fate, at least score-wise, if not victory-wise, maybe. But, kudos to New Jersey. I thought that they played a really good game.
Marko?
Last night's game reminded me of that 90s movie with Michelle Pfeiffer, What Lies Beneath. I don't know if you guys remember that one. It's a pretty good one. But
is it the one Michael DeVilleneuve was inside that movie?
Yeah, I think no, you never.
Sorry,
Michelle Pfeiffer when she was still pre-smoking hot. But yeah, so
still is.
Perfect.
Yeah. So what lies beneath. So I think a lot of the things that we've been kind of worried about and talking about over the last while, like the underlying numbers, like the really dangerous scoring chances that they've been allowing, and the good goaltending has been kind of masking. That kind of came to light yesterday with everything ENORTAP said, right? Just a lot of pressure, causing a lot. Like name of the game was turnovers last night. So, I think we talked about the game, good learning opportunity. We'll see kind of how they rebound against Columbus, which should be a gettable game for them for sure. Obviously the most important and interesting discussion going on right now is around Mike Matheson about to make his return. Kovacevic, they invited him to get his cozy little nest going in Montreal, so that's good news for him. So we'll see kind of where that leads us. Really, I think we all understand that Weidman is probably going to get waived, but is he though? Because that means that they're going to have to sit one of those rookies, even if they rotate them. Do they really want to sit them? It's a very interesting discussion all over Twitter. That's all you're talking about today. If you're on Habs Twitter, is who's going to sit, who's gonna go. So we'll learn. We've been talking about it for months now. It seems like even though it's been like a month this season, like it seems like we've been talking about it forever. Inevitably, this was going to come, and the day is coming very soon, unless there's an injury again, which it could happen too.
Always possible.
So what the reason to bring Pitlick? Because I will give them a 24 players.
Yeah, that was strange. I didn't get that move.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like maybe it's something that they promised him that he would be the first call up or something. And that's something that you have to you have to consider here too, right? Like when you're debating over whether they're going to sit Harris or Jack-Eye, again, you have to remember that there's that almost privileged relationship between Harris and the management. They had to really woo him to sign with the Canadians, and there's that whole relationship with Kent Hughes and the family and all that. So I think the fan base might revolt if it's Jack-Eye that gets sent down, but it's not impossible.
Is he their best defenseman? I mean, like some nights I watch him and I'm like, who's better than this guy in Montreal? And then what a revelation!
Gouli.
Like, well, Goulie's
I think
excellent,
Goulie's better. Yeah,
but he is not meaner than Jack-Eye, right? And Jack-Eye's got the big shot. Like, if his impact and I turn. You guys watch more than I do. I turn. I'm like, oh, he's on the point on the power play. What? I did not expect that.
Yeah.
Like if you said it to me last year, I would never guess that.
Yeah,
he's not on.
If you watch Hamilton, like
power play,
isn't he?
He was pretty good in Hamilton.
No.
Yeah,
I mean,
in Hamilton last year in the playoffs, he was there.
He's on the third pairing right now with Montreal, but
Goulie's been excellent too. I mean that's a guy that it's really sad in a sense because I watch Caden, which is great, but his brother was excellent. Like there is no reason his brother could not be like almost at that level. Just I think for injuries that kind of derailed him, but that's a guy that when I watch Caden, I'm like, well, that if you want the mirror image, it's his older brother. And I think
he's a right shot, right? His older brother? I think he's a right shot.
Correct, but I'd have to double check to confirm. I haven't.
Which one?
Yeah. Well, his older brother was drafted by Buffalo, right? And he was also in the WHL, and he was like a highly rated pick, and he went to Anaheim. I think it's part of.
Yeah.
There was a big deal that I can't remember, but. Anyways, I thought that was. I don't know if he was part of the Montour deal. Or, I can't remember.
Yeah, it's possible.
We welcome Run with Kings 20, Alan Barnes. Welcome back in the house. Pierre said Montreal played 2 solid good period last night, but nowhere near as a New Jersey. So maybe, I don't know, and put you maybe on the wrong spot, Michael, but I don't have a chance watching New Jersey this season.
I mean, I'm trying to watch them. They're not my favorite team, but how... I keep saying this. There's 3 players that you better be watching, which is Jack Hughes, Connor McDavid, and Kaprizov, because this is like once in a lifetime to see guys at this level where they're, one's turning the corner and probably did so last year. The other guy's at the pinnacle. And like, did you ever think that you would look realistically at the NHL ever again after the dead puck era and say, you know what, that guy could score 200 points, because that's what I look at. Like 2 points a game, and I don't even think he's kicked into high gear yet. Like I just think in his head, he's like, I'm gonna set records and break records. That's what he's. And you know, the other guy is Kaprizov. I mean, we haven't seen a guy like this in the NHL since, you know, Pavel Datsyuk or Pavel Bure. Like he's just an exciting, dynamic player. As much as that team struggled, but as far as the Habs go, like, you know, if you're a Habs fan, and I've become a Kirby Dach fan over time, you've got to be really happy with that move. Like that just was another head scratcher. I think the reality is Chicago wanted to burn it to the ground, and Kirby Dach is like what, a point a game right now?
Almost, yeah.
No, just under. Yeah.
Just under. Yeah. Like, so I think if you thought of his career potential, it was, hey, this is a 60-point guy that might get 70 points, might get 80 points. And to have a 6'4" guy with as much skill as he does and as mature as he is, like, it's just, I don't know, like that accelerates your rebuild like really fast, in my opinion.
Since I was just watching Buffalo, here's an interesting question, guys, because I think these guys were kind of not clones, but like if you had to choose between Dylan Cousins and Kirby Dach, who would you choose?
Which one?
Dylan
Cousins and Kirby Dach. Same draft year, drafted a couple of spots aside, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing that was always the question coming out of our league with Dylan Cousins was the hockey sense. He had speed, and he carried the puck a lot more than you would have liked him to in our league. And the question was, can this guy play center? And that was a big question. But I think he's a very good player. He's big. He's a great kid. He's got offensive talent, maybe a little bit. I don't know if he's like a high hockey IQ, but it's not like he makes major problems out there for you. Kirby Dach has like an intelligence about him, as well as a high skill set and the size. He's just a little bit taller and a little bit skinnier than Cousins, but he's going to be a monster, in my opinion. I think the ability to control the puck at high speeds is what he has, and he can make plays and he can shoot. So I don't know. At some point, that's just going to crack through a couple times. I think he'll just
If
I compare Kirby Dach to an octopus. I compare him to an octopus along the boards. Like he's got these long tentacles, kind of like, and he's just able to kind of, you know, like steal pucks, and it's pretty impressive.
That's Slafkovsky too, right? To a certain degree.
You hope so. Yeah.
With that reach. Yeah, but the thing that is kind of puzzling in a way is when he started off at center, even with Montreal, he wasn't getting the kind of production he's getting. Granted that he's playing with better players now on the first line, but as a winger, he seems to be a little bit more polished, I would say. And I wonder if maybe his vision of the game is not as high as we think, and maybe that's been the problem all along. I'm not saying that he's dumb or anything like that, but there's more responsibility when you're a centerman. You have to know the entire 200-foot game, your responsibilities. You can't miss any assignments, and you got to get everybody else in tune with what you're doing as a centerman.
Not in Martin Saint-Louis' system though, but like it's I think really, since it's almost man-to-man in a lot of occasions, it's not always the center that's dropping back and going back. It's really situational as to who's going to play that role. To me, I look at Dach, like even last night, the way that some of his puck entries, he looks like a center to me, man. Like just even on the power play, his to me the two biggest skill sets he has, other than being a good playmaker and his size and everything else, is his board play. He's not like a physical board player guy, like he's not like an Armia where but it's his skill and how he's like almost Mark Stone-ish in his ability to do takeaways. I'd be curious to see where he ranks in takeaways. And then the other piece is his zone entries, man. Like he's really fluid coming in there. He knows when to slow down. To me, I used to have this debate with all my friends when we were looking at Galchenyuk when he first came into the league. To me, the stereotypical thing that you want. Now, people are going to laugh at me when I bring up this name, but Scott Gomez. Okay, Scott Gomez, the only thing he was good at was to come into the zone, slow it down, and find a late guy, curl around. So unfortunately, that was the only thing that he was good at in Montreal. But to me, that's a classic trait that you look for in a center, right? Is knowing when to speed up, slow down, find pockets and find different layers coming through. And I think Doc has that vision and the ability to do that.
I think that long term, I would still project him as a center. I think that this is a kid that was A, rushed, and B, he's mature to the point where he puts a lot of pressure on himself. And I think moving him to the wing takes those responsibilities away from him and takes some of the pressure off, and it simplifies his game automatically because he doesn't have to handle the puck as much. And I feel like he has to do everything. Yeah. Like if you would see him, he'd make that extra move. He'd hold on to it a little bit too long because he's got to do it waiting for the guys to catch up to him. And I think by him being on the wing, it just buys him that time to see. And I don't think he sees the ice poorly at all. And I think you hit it on the head. He's a good playmaker. He is good and tight. Like you compare him to a Byfield in
good hands,
Los Angeles, right? And Byfield struggles on the boards. He gets knocked over really easily. That's not Kirby, and he's determined, but he's also skilled. So I think long term, you got to say, hey, like eventually he's going to be able to graduate to play center. He's not irresponsible. I think this is similar to Dylan Cousins or Dylan Larkin, where Dylan Larkin, when he had nobody to play with, when he was the only guy, he had one speed and he would carry the puck way too much, and he looked horrible. Like he couldn't get past 20 goals a year. And then you put someone like Raymond on his wing, and give him easy, and the pressure's off him a little bit, and he can give the puck up a little bit. And I think that's what's going on with Kirby.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Good point for everybody. Again, thanks to chatting. So I'm giving you a chance to watching the game, so that's good for this one. We should do this more
What's
often.
The score now?
It's great.
Sir.
But I think you have two things I want to just add. I think you bring a lot of nuggets. First of all, I think Marco said less pressure. I would say to you, here's what's bothered him for the last 12 months maybe. Everybody asking him about his face-off number. It's came to him every single day about that. And everything when you go on the ice and you lose the face-off, you're running after the puck, and mentally, you whatever who you are, you're going to think first, there you go, I lost again. It's affect you during the game, and it's bother you at some point. After the game, when he finished with 38%, he's going to have that comments again or that question, oh, he got 38. Whatsoever the question is not coming, he know exactly how he got during that game. So that's the one thing is not have to be worried. The second thing, Michael, like Marco and everybody here, hockey is, yes, it's center, winger, but it's not exist anymore like it was in the past. Like, oh, you have to stay on your corridor 1, 2, and 3, and you play that game, and you cannot go nowhere. The game is changing a lot. You can become now a winger, a center. It's a more F1, F2, F3. So I'm not sure he's going to be center back, but my point to you is like he fit well because he can be. I saw him yesterday. Came late and not late, but he came back deep in the zone of Montreal Canadiens. So for me, I think it's not like it was before the center winger. So 2 points, I think, is going to help Kirby Doc a long term. And you never know. Maybe with Montreal, he could pick Owen Beck, and then he could pick up another big center like Fantilli, or could be Leo Carlson if they play center. Maybe Doc could stay as a winger a long term with the Montreal Canadiens. That's it, he will. But for me right now, he fit very well as a winger.
You can never have too many centers.
Yeah, that's true. But I like the fact that he heads to the net all the time. He's always in front of the goalie. And it's something that we've lacked in Montreal for years. And if he continues to do that, he's going to get rewarded with a lot of tip-ins and deflections. And it'll be something to look forward to.
Absolutely.
Even as a winger, he's very responsible.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like if you look at all the high danger chances that we've been talking about, I saw a breakdown earlier today where essentially most of those chances are coming from the winger not going back up, like they're forechecking too deep and not coming back to cover their point, or the guy in the high slot. Hoffman probably being the worst out of the bunch. At not doing that, and it's most of the high danger chances are coming from there. Really, the only winger that's coming back and doing that work well is Gallagher. So and Doc, right? So even as a winger, you can see like not just in terms of the plays that he makes, but his overall understanding the game is very solid, and he's performing well right now.
All right, we have a question before we go to the next subject we have tonight. It's come for DH for Michael about the Islanders. Relate who was the reason the Islanders seem like always draft the WHL kid for 27. They are not the only team. I think Montreal Canadiens was another pipeline for the Montreal in that league and the last couple of years with Marc Bergevin and Robert Timmins. But Michael, any question, any answer you have on that one?
I mean, I don't have any direct insight, but I mean, if you look at the guys that are the big impact guys, like the Ryan Puloks, the Matthew Barzal, like you can see that they've got guys like Oliver Wahlstrom who are US, but I think in the end you just pick players that fit your style, and they have a little bit of lunch bucket to them. And a guy that's from the WHL is going to have no problem living in Long Island. So maybe that's part of it.
William said this, and this is the question. So, what Montreal has lacked for years as a center?
Not anymore.
It was Bergeron's one thing he couldn't do in 9 years, bring a centerman to Montreal.
So that remind me, and I think like because he wrote that, and every time that, and I'm talking about Kirby Doc, every time that, I feel like Bergeron, he was scared to give away asset. And compared to other GM already on offensive all the time, like he was it's not easy trade a center or get a trade for the center. We turn that, and the first thing happening with the Hughes is they got a center right away. Like
I don't think we had the assets really to get a number one center. We did not have the assets to pull that off.
I think we would have taken a number two center at any time. We didn't need a number one.
Yeah.
We would have taken a number two center, really.
Absolutely.
Those are just
absolutely.
I think that it was a lightning strike moment though with Chicago. Like, who in their right mind would watch Kirby Doc even in Chicago? And I was baffled when they moved him. What about Alex DeBrincat? Like, this guy was at the height of his powers, playing with the top 5 players the last 10 years. Like, look at Hagel in Tampa. Like, there's so many assets that have left Chicago. Kubalik. Look at Kubalik in Detroit. So Detroit's got like 4 or 5. Like, well, no, those are Blues. But the Kubalik thing like blows my mind because we saw.
Isn't he their leading scorer right now? Isn't he the leading scorer for Detroit?
Yeah, I think he's got like 17 points or something. And he's only making
close to
5.8 million for the next 2 years, this year and next year. Like,
there you go.
Yeah. Like devaluing your own asset.
Yeah,
I think they got lucky with getting Doc, in my opinion.
Thank you. To welcome back Danny, Eric Bengal for Halifax. Laval still winning 3-1. Pierre Martin, I have a question for you guys. Maybe one of you opinion. Why cannot player play more than one position pro NHL? Must have plays one position, talent cost, but what else?
Coaches get stuck in patterns too. Coaches trust you in a certain way. It's very difficult to give guys time to adjust to anything. It's like, we Coach and I went to the coaches clinic, the NHL coaches clinic one year, and Steve Spott said to me, "There's no secrets in the NHL." Like, it's execution of the same stuff that everybody else is doing. So you shifting guys around it's like putting a left shot on the right side. Like, that little difference is such a problem, and the other team can exploit it. Like, you just don't understand as a fan maybe that coaches recognize these things quickly, players recognize these things quickly, and it's just a comfort thing in one part, but it's also like small changes like that. If a guy's just not that much less effective in that role, then you're going to take advantage of it, and it's the difference between winning and losing.
Awesome for this one over there. Let's move on to the next one. Here we have this subject is come for each one of you, and one subject for each one. So what I want to accomplish with this, you open up a subject, and then each one of us will have concerns about that subject, And I'm going to be like this for about a couple more minutes. So if you have already a subject, you can jump in. And that I don't want to put on the bad position, so I don't know what to talk about. But if one of you want to talk about different subjects, not but relate to Montreal, could be NHL, American Hockey League, Junior, Prospect, or open up. And I think that would be great. And the people in the chat can continue that conversation. That would be awesome.
Who would you like to start?
Marco,
I'll go first. I'll just.
Are you freezing? You freeze, Marco?
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. I'll go. Here's one. So, so since I think it's the World Cup is going to be delayed again. I read this one article that was talking about that it's going to be 10 years time that Connor McDavid put on a Team Canada jersey. So from the last time that he wore a Team Canada jersey was in the World Juniors, and by the time that he plays in the Olympics in 2026, I guess is when that would happen. It would have been 10 years since Connor McDavid, arguably the best player since Crosby, would have worn the Canada jersey. So we know the reason for that. It's a lot of unfortunately with COVID and a lot of things that have happened during that time. But we understand also the thing that's going on, everything happening with the Ukraine and I think everybody understands why these have to be canceled. But it's just a shame, right, to not see best on best. I don't know if you guys agree, but some of my best hockey memories are, the '87 Canada Cup. For me, that's my era, and obviously the Olympics and everything else. So yeah, so just maybe guys' thoughts on that. Like, are you guys missing best on best international play as much as I am?
100%, Marco. I couldn't agree with you more. It's the biggest memories I have from my childhood days. Like I saw back in, I think I was in grade 4 at the time, the '72 Canada series when it brought together a country, and it was more than just hockey. It was about political statements. It was about lifestyles. It was about different, compositions of countries, and it was just amazing. And the fact that we haven't had one, and we're sort of dancing around the fact, like, well, the situation in Russia, and we can't go abroad. You know what? Even if it has to be Canada, US for now, until we can get other countries in there like Finland and Sweden. I mean, just those 4 alone would be a tremendous exhibition of hockey, and that's what you remember. It's fabulous. I think the players absolutely live for that themselves. Is sometimes they value that more than they do a cup victory. So yeah, I miss it, and I'm sure many others do as well.
I mean, there is no other rivalry that I like better than Russia and Canada. I wonder. I don't get as excited. But we've had some great moments with USA Canada, but I think that's the one that I would miss the most. It is great to see the best on best, but every time I'm watching the Olympics, there's something I'm watching. I'm just waiting for someone to get hurt, and they're going to miss the opportunity to win the Stanley Cup. I'm like, oh, is this over yet? But I love the World Juniors. To me, that's the real international competition that I look forward to every year. I like the Halenka. So the young guys in those scenarios, there's just something about the Olympics that drive me nuts. I would rather see a Rendezvous 87 type format, like you mentioned,
that's
World
pretty
Cup.
Cool.
Nothing to do with the IIHF. Like if you could remove it from that, wacky international body, then I would get excited. And I think the only people that should be putting on that stuff is the NHL for me. Like, just make them the arbiter of this international tournament. I'd rather see that than an all-star game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
For the all-star game, let's do that.
I don't know if you watch Saturday night, hockey night in Canada, but Elliot, you have a kind of proposal where, I don't know if Marco, you know that?
Yeah. Like the idea was his idea was to do a Canada-US showcase, basically, just similar to what ENORTAP was saying. Yeah. Like so last thing on this topic, in a way, like I think we're all sad that it hasn't been happening, but in a way, it's kind of hidden the fact that I guess an interesting topic also that we could talk about is goalies. It's such a weird time for goalies, like especially in Canada, right? Like other than Carter Hart, can you think of who the next Canadian Olympic goalie would be? Like, it's just a really weird time for goalies. Like, I think we've talked about this summer, guys, when we're talking about rule changes or one of those shows. It's just such a weird time, like with how taxing the new style with the reverse H or whatever that technique is called, just so hard on their bodies, right? So, just interested to hear you guys talk about, how what's this era going to be like for goaltending in the NHL compared to what we've seen? It's such an underrated and under kind of discussed part of the game, in my
I
opinion.
mean, arguably the best two guys are the Russians, right? Like you've got two Russians right at the top of the order. You're still you get Swedes, you get Finns, you get US guys. What's going on with Canada? The common denominator for me is every single one of those countries has a national program of some sort.
Yes,
There's no
exactly.
national program in Canada. There's absolutely no goaltending czar in Canada. There's zero consistency. There's one weird thing like that Canadians are not socialist about. It's goaltending. It's just bizarre. Like that is clearly the answer. There's no pipeline of goalies because there's no consistent approach. Even when you do Team Canada, our goaltending coach James Jenner goes to the Team Canada events, and he gets this team, and this guy gets this team, and this guy gets this team, and then there's a guy that's above him, and they're all teaching him different things, and they only have him for a very, very, very short amount of time. There is no development nationally, and there's no incentive to. So it doesn't make sense to me. Whereas if you look at the US, they have the US, under 17s. Those guys are playing together from like 16, 17 onwards. And it is the one benefit of there being, even though overall there's as many players in the US as there are in Canada, not the top tier guys, right? There's less of them. And that's the one thing that really benefits them is that under 17 program that graduates to the Helinka, that graduates to the World Juniors, that comes to the NHL, because they get pretty consistent, like more consistent, shockingly, than Canada. And I think that's a huge problem. Sweden's figured it out, Finland's figured it out, and Russia is doing something. I don't know what goes on there.
They're at the top of the game right now.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just
yeah.
gear right there. So, and then they
But
got Sorokin too.
Well,
All
yeah,
right.
that's the third one I was referring to, and it's been oncoming for a long time, Michael. And we've talked about this numerous times. If they don't address it, we're going to start seeing exactly what we said before. Okay, our Canadian goalies who? Hart and let me
We
think
have a
about that.
few. I think we capitalize too much. Like what I mean. Like we are Kosa, Sebastian Kosa. We have a great goaltender. WHL. Michael can mention for Brandon White, whatever the last name over there. He's another good goalie. You have a great goalie at Victoriaville right now, Drummondville. I think it's Victoriaville. Dag. He's only 16 years old.
He's 16.
Yeah, but again, like the key to get the Roy, Leon Go, they all come together. He start with Ken Dryden, and then after that you get the Martin Brodeur, and then you get those pick all get
Patrick
like
Roy.
the second year Chicoutimi guy for many years. They pick up Ottawa just scored by the way the Brincat. They pick up many goalie back to back. We talk about Felix Botvin. You talk about McDonough back to back with it. I'm missing another goaltender was good over there. Oh, Jimmy Waite has been there to Chicago for Chicoutimi. So I just give you an idea where it's not like this before. We still have a few. We don't expect another goaltender like 400 W or whatever they are. But I think, unfortunately, overall, we think we have a few. Not like it was in the past. Honestly, without that become, but we produce maybe more forward like we never have before in the past.
Well, I mean, I think you mentioned like the two goalies. You look at Everett, and I think finally, like maybe we don't have perfect goaltending, but we had Carter Hart, who we got at 14, and then we got 14. We got Dustin Wolf, and I'd be shocked if Dusty's not in the NHL. the consistency of what comes out of Chicoutimi is because there's someone there that's responsible for it. And if you
Yeah,
look at our
you can't just hope that it happens, right? Like so
honestly,
it's not just a luck thing, right? Like, oh, like you just need one, and then
definitely
it's not like they're just going to be influenced and inspired to be good goalies. Like there's a structural investment in developing goaltenders that's missing at a national level. I think, Michael, like you nailed it.
yeah.
I agree.
And like, if
Money.
you look at we developed goaltenders. We had Shane Clifford, American goalie coach with Pittsburgh Penguins organization. And then when he moved, we had James Jenner. And those guys were like, we invested in top tier goalie coaches. Those two guys are like the best that are out there, right? So there's got to be, if you do that at a national level and you listen to, or, you bring one of those guys there, like if Jenner was running the Canadian program, which I think he should, like put Jenner in charge. Your goalies will turn out because first of all, you'll only have guys that want to win. You'll have only guys that want to carry the team on their shoulder, and they'll work because he doesn't like anybody that doesn't work. So he's picking them for character first, which is usually we're like whatever the goalie is, whatever the goalie is. He's not like that, and then he's teaching him the theory and the technical, and he works them. And you don't see that.
So one last thing before we head off goalies, Michael. One thing that's always surprised me, because when you hear scouts and management talk about drafting goalies, it's pretty much just sorcery to them, right? Like it's really just guessing. Like it doesn't look like they have any sort of really kind of criteria that they're very comfortable. It's really like throwing darts at the board. So as an organization like Montreal, for example, I think we've talked a lot over the last little while that any successful rebuild is going to have to include some young goaltending that's going to, be aligned in the same window that we're going to have. So why is it that NHL teams don't invest more in, like maybe there's like old goalie coaches that could become scouts? Like why isn't somebody developing the art of scouting goalies more? Maybe we could, guys, maybe that's our next thing. Like maybe
that's an excellent point. That's an excellent point.
It's definitely a part of it. Like, I got to be honest, like I watch goalies, I have no idea. Like I honestly called Jenner and I asked Jenner, I go, look at this guy. I think he's good.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. Because I'm looking for things like I'll look at things that he's going to look at like 100 things before I look at one. Like he's got such investment. So I think you're right. And I think that, for us, we've found good goalies that way. Like, we've had one or two that even haven't reported that would have been studs under his tutelage. And without him, they ain't studs. Like I can tell you there's one that goes to the USHL. We drafted, should have been our starting goalie right now. And he's barely making Chicago as the third goalie. Right. So like, You're like, well, what's the difference? If he had worked with Jenner for the 2 years prior to coming to camp and come to camp instead of listening to agents, Jenner would have made all the difference in the world. We picked the right skill set, character, not questionable character, not to say that about him. It's just, he's a softer guy than Jenner maybe would have liked. But if he worked with Jenner athletically, he would be like 10 times. He'd be drafted. This guy would be drafted next summer. And if he is, I'll be shocked.
All right, we have a few people show up. Alexandre Meilleur is in the house. Luc Laforson is in the house. And then Alan Barnes, I have a question. Maybe one of you can answer about that one over there, if I can find it. Does Norway have a hockey team?
Yes, of course.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
Yeah, you got
Norwegians. They're Vikings. Of course, they have a hockey team. These are Viking people.
So who are the Norwegian players? Like Lars Eller, is he Norwegian?
Think so.
No,
Who else came out?
No, he's
Really?
No, Norway. I think there's Zuccarello is Norwegian, right?
Yeah.
He's Danish. I thought he was Swiss.
No,
Zuccarello.
He's Norwegian. A little Viking guy.
Any other subject, ENORTAP, you have before we move on?
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. I'd like to, address it to everybody, but specifically more so to Marko because you're in the city. And that's the whole Ottawa situation. And I don't mean necessarily just their record right now, but more so, the final decision that finally they're going to sell the team, number one. Number two, is it truly a horrible place? Because I've been to Ottawa a few times, but never to a game. Is it a horrible location where it's at right now? And does the
Right.
city have the the infrastructure, and B, the dedication from the fans to attend on a regular basis?
Yeah, great question.
Are
So
they
I can
big
say
attendance?
so. Sorry, go ahead, Michael.
I'm sorry. Are they having big attendance problems?
Yeah, it hasn't been great. Like they
It's
started off
hard.
pretty well, but the last couple games are like averaging around 11,000 or so.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, anybody who's an Ottawa fan will know the history really well. It was just, it's like a classic kind of like political kind of thing. Why the rink ended up in Canada, which is a suburb of Ottawa. Somebody got rich, making that deal. The plan is at that time was they were thinking that this suburb was going to be kind of the new Silicon Valley. There was kind of like a couple of high tech firms that were in that area. So they were really trying to build it out to be that. So they felt at the time that was going to be a really good strategic move to do that. But just so you understand, people that understand Ottawa, it's roughly with traffic, it can be up to an hour drive from downtown. Without traffic,
Is it,
it's more like 20 minutes. But like, especially coming back from a game, when people are driving and we, again, most people, the transit is not amazing. So most people would drive because sometimes if you're going just downtown, but if you live on the other suburb, which is more on the east side of town, it could take you almost like 2 hours to get back home with the traffic. It's just insane. So the rink itself was beautiful. It was like a really nice experience. Everybody was so excited to have. I don't know if you guys remember, but at first it was at the Civic Center, which is where the 67s
Mm,
play. That was a fun experience. Like it was a nice little rink. It's that rink is located downtown in an area called Lansdowne Park, which I used to
right.
live really close to. That's a really nice little area. So that's why it is in Canada. And yes, it is a terrible location. Anybody who's from Canada watching, I'm sorry, it's not that Canada's horrible, but it's just horrible for other people who don't live in Canada that want to go watch a hockey game. Canada's a
do
very nice
people?
place. Sorry, go ahead,
Because I
Michael.
always do people live in Canada? Like I always thought it was like
Yeah,
a
yeah.
business park.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, Canada
They do.
is it's a residential. It's a
Oh, it is.
pretty well-to-do. A lot of bureaucrats that live there. Like it's a nice suburb. It's a really nice suburb.
Okay.
But there's an area of it that they had kind of earmarked. There was an industrial park there, and there was a lot of commercial activity that they earmarked that didn't really pan out.
Oh,
So
really?
that's the story there. So in terms of it moving forward, in terms of infrastructure downtown, absolutely, there is rail that's been built downtown. We're still building; hasn't gone super well. There's been some hiccups with it, but there is a rail system that's been put in place in Ottawa over the last 5 years or so. So people from the East End and West End will be able to come downtown. There's a great area called the like not the War Memorial, but there's a war museum in the area called the Breton Flats, which you've probably heard of. That's
Hmm.
probably like a 15-minute walk from the Byward Market, so it's like right downtown. Really big open space. I think everybody's seen the plans that have been drawn up there. They're really awesome. There's like a Ripley's aquarium that would be added, all these shops and a really nice commercial area. So really it's like anything else. It's going to be political, like other cities. Our taxpayers going to want to pay a part of the bill and all that. So my confidence level is pretty high, though, that it will happen, especially if we get a new owner in that has a little bit more clout, and isn't going to ruffle a lot of feathers like the former owner did. So my confidence level is that, and I live downtown in Ottawa, right? So we're known to be not the most exciting city. You're right. There's a lot of government workers. There's not a lot of exciting things to do. It's a nice, quiet town where you can kind of raise your family. But we need more things in our downtown core to make it more exciting, to have more experiences for people. So the people that are going to the games now are hardcore fans. You need it to be in a central area so that the casual fan that can make a last minute decision. Oh, hey, yeah, let's go check out a hockey game. We're having dinner tonight. Oh, yeah, let's go watch a hockey game, and not have
Grab the
to
train. Yeah.
grab a train or like drive for 2 hours in like gridstone traffic. So yeah, confidence level high that it'll work out, and hopefully that lines up with this hockey team being a little bit more successful, and it appears they're on the cusp of doing that.
Just as long as they don't, whoever comes in to purchase it doesn't sell it or move it somewhere else, because it would be a real pity to lose such a good hockey town or city.
Yeah, I think the owners are. I think the Melnick daughters are selling it with the condition that it would be kept in Ottawa. That's what I've heard. Yeah.
Is Ryan Reynolds going to pull it off?
I think.
No,
well, he's been out there.
He's looking for somebody with deep pockets.
Sugar daddy. He's looking for the sugar daddy. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. The next subject is: do you believe on New Jersey Devils, at the Vegas Golden Knight, at the New York Islanders, the Boston Bruins, and the Winnipeg Jets? So we have 5 teams there. You have maybe other teams you want to mention. You can talk about them. But they are the 5 of them. You don't have to talk about each one of them. You can select one specific team. That's not a problem. But really, what do you believe? Where my question is about, okay, do you really believe going to be all the way to the end to going to make the playoff? That's really what the question. So, or do you feel like they're not going to fall apart, or they're going to drop during the season? Anybody can start. It's no matter.
Well, I think if you start with the first one, I keep asking this question. Maybe you guys can answer it. How are New Jersey winning hockey games like this?
So just a note, I read something on this earlier. Somebody took the effort to compare New Jersey's current winning streak to other winning streaks that have happened, say, over the last 5 years, and looked at all their underlying numbers to see how they're doing it. And I forget the exact details, but the takeaway is that their overall 5-on-5 play is far superior to other teams that have had these types of streaks. So it's not like Montreal right now, where they were having a little bit of success and they were riding like hot goaltending or anything. New Jersey's actually doing it with fundamentally strong hockey, right? So that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, in 5-on-5, that's tough. If you're winning games based on 5-on-5, that's definitely a surprise. I like the story of Vanacek. Blackwood is still struggling to do what Blackwood should do. Right now, all the wins seem to be in Vanacek's column, though. So I guess the question is Vanacek a 50-goal or a 50-game guy? Is he a 60-game guy? Because that's kind of what they would need to maintain this. So I got to think that they're going to calm down at some point a little bit, but it's pretty impressive to watch. I don't even think all their offensive guns are firing right now. Like, I don't think Dawson Mercer's had the best year. I think Sharon Govich has still more to show, and they're still kind of working in Holtz. So they got more in the kitty on the offensive side. John Marino's been very, very good. Like, unreal. I think, if anything, look at the difference in Pittsburgh's play without John Marino. Ty Smith's in the AHL. So I thought originally it was the other way around. This was like theft by Pittsburgh, but Tom Fitzgerald's showing he knows his stuff.
Yeah.
That being said, I don't see them being a 700 or 800 team, but
well, no, for sure.
No, I know. With Pittsburgh, it's not just the loss of Marino; it's also the loss of Matheson,
and the addition of Petrie.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. You know what? If their defense can hold up, I do think they're for real. I think that there will be 1 or 2 possible spots to steal to get into the playoffs. And of all the teams that developed over the last couple of years, I think New Jersey's probably slightly ahead of everybody else. So does the rate at which they're winning right now surprise me? Yes. Does the fact that they're doing well does not surprise me? No.
So looking at this list, I think a faster way to go through it is, who do I not 100% believe in? Because I think most of these teams I do believe in. The only ones you can really have question marks. You might not agree, ENORTAP. I know you're a big New York Islanders guy, but I still have question marks about that aging core a little bit. Their goaltending is really solid, though, so that's kind of the one saving grace, with Sorokin there.
And their defense.
their defense, yeah, they're built pretty strong back there for sure, but it's just so like Barzell is still one-dimensional right now. He's been pretty underwhelming so far this year. A lot of assists. I don't think he has a goal yet.
As
Still,
But
no,
that's
I
the
don't
good
think so.
news.
But
That's the good
yeah,
news. They
he's
perform without goals from him.
that's right. If you
maybe.
look
just
at the
gotta
So
distribution, look at their distribution of goals. Everybody's chipping in. Not a lot, but everybody's chipping in.
But a lot of pucks are
I
going
get
through
it.
him.
I get it.
I've seen him before. Like he gets in these modes. He did this in our league, and all the pucks are going through Barzal. But he is a generator. He does legitimately make people around him better. So I think it's you'd like to see 4 or 5 goals in there, not just 18 assists. But I think in his
Yeah.
case, those are probably. I would like to see how many of those are first assists as opposed to second, because I'd be really shocked if he's not the one creating so many opportunities for his line mates.
It seems to me that they're relying a lot, though, still on players like Palmieri and Parise. Like, I believe, are they not playing on their, are they on the third line or second line? Like, I haven't watched a lot of the games, but you're relying on those two guys there, and even Lee, right? Like,
Lee's great.
he's still a good player. He's still a
Yeah,
good
he's
player,
been
but like,
producing.
yeah,
He's
well, again,
I,
I'm not, I'm not 100%. I'm not saying I just have some doubts around that aging core, but they have performed pretty well so far.
What
listen.
about
The
you,
two
Winnipeg?
doesn't the two
Shot.
guys that he gives credit for are Nelson, the two Minnesota guys. Like Nelson and Lee are horses, and their games are not predicated upon being the fastest. They're big bodies that lean on you, and they got offensive talent, and they're going to enforce their will. And that's 2 lines, 2 different lines, right? So they're always going to be tough to play against.
But you have
It's
that
the guy.
saying where like you have players that will get you to the playoffs and the players that will get you through the playoffs. So I
Oh yeah,
agree that
Mhm.
Nelson and Lee are prototypical playoff guys. Like they had those great series against Tampa, really like
yep.
just right there, almost getting to a Stanley Cup final. So it's not that I don't like those players, but are those
Listen,
kinds of players the ones that are going to help you produce in the kind of hockey that we're seeing, like really high offensive games, really fast, like like it's a lot of offense in the NHL nowadays. So hopefully the Islanders can keep up with it. I'd be their offense seems to be a bit dry, and that's kind of been the knock on them in the past is just not being able to produce enough. I know they play a tight game, but yeah, that's my one question about this list. I would say.
Anything someone want to add before we move on?
I think that Winnipeg's going to go through a Rick Bonus roller coaster. I
What does
really,
that
I
mean?
have. Well, I
Not
mean,
much
he
love
goes
for him.
high highs and low lows, right? I think so far it's been really good, and I like what's happened. They made some right calls. Apparently, removing the C from Wheeler changed the dynamic a little bit. You're getting good goaltending, but at some point,
Yeah,
I'm
Great goaltending.
great
yeah. I mean,
goaltending.
so I
Yeah,
think that's been an issue the last number of years. So yes, it was good, and I've never been a big believer in Paul Maurice. I think you're seeing what is going to happen with him in Florida. It's also a roller coaster type coach, but I just don't know if look at how good Dallas is right now, and with Rick Bonus, they were up and down like a yo-yo and couldn't make it into the playoffs. So I just
But
feel
I
like
think
that you're gonna have a guy they'll drop down and they'll be on the cusp.
I see your
don't be so
point,
mean to
Michael.
Mr. Rogers.
No, but I think it's more
2 times
longevity
the
wise.
yeah,
Wherever Bonus is gone, his first year, he's actually
yeah,
produced. He's
true.
produced.
He's a one year coach.
But you're right. Over extended years, it doesn't follow through.
It's
No, the
he's just
guy's
too nice. Too nice.
is
So
I don't know what
my
it is.
my question to you guys: the St. Louis Blues won the last 3 games, I believe. Send the mom all with the team. Do you travel the mom all year long with them, or
Maybe I give credit. I
I'm
think
not sure the players would like that.
I'm going to tell you. I believe that it's Bonnie O'Reilly. I will give Bonnie O'Reilly all the credit because Ryan suddenly's got 4 goals, and no one has a better mom than Ryan O'Reilly. And I just
but the
mean
dad
that
is the smartest one?
because he's with her.
No, because no, no, no. But the dad is really good on the. He trained him. He trained him on the mindset and on the exercise like crazy. Like you have a report about him. Like he's
Yeah, I
really.
can't wait for it.
I'm sorry.
I love Brian. I'm good friends with Brian, and Brian's like, Brian would come to our practices, and I'm like, this kid's friggin' burned out. He's so hard on himself. And Brian's like, good, that he needs to be. That's how winners win. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, Brian.
He does all the kind of exercise on the stability, on the balance with Randy. You have a lot a video about him, and he does a lot of speak. He's a speaker. His dad about the mindset, everything like that. It's pretty cool to see a story about him. So
I can tell you that in the summer in Seaford, like players would go up there and train with them, and he was very, very innovative. And what you saw from Ryan is why I always say, like, I never have seen a player work like him off the ice. At 15, like he would make me bring him to the rink, not make, but he would ask and I would do it. He'd say, hey, you know, he was living in Toronto on his own at 15. His dad called me and goes, he's all yours. I'm going back to Seaford. So I'm like, okay, well, I will accept this because he's probably going to go to the OHL draft, ended up going first. And he would make me take him to the arena. He's like, can we go to the arena? I'm like, sure. He goes, no, like now. I'm like, okay, well, it's 4 hours before the game. Like I'm going to the arena 3-4 hours before the game. Nobody else shows up before an hour. He would go up in the stands. He'd go, see ya. Go up in the stands, headphones, ball, stretching. He would do yoga 3 times a week at 15. He would cool down for 30 minutes. And like, you got to give a lot of credit to Brian because Brian was the guy that was like, flexibility is important. He wasn't, you know, he weighed maybe $159 then. He's maybe 5'10" and a half, right? But every year he'd put on 10 pounds. He put on 10 pounds. He put on 10 pounds. So all the stuff Brian does, I totally am down. I think I've never seen anyone train the way he did for those guys.
It's a great story, Michael. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. We want to welcome Roger DELANEY. Roger just show up. Our friend Roger, welcome everybody. Thanks. Don't forget, guys, click on the likes. The next subject, guy, is it over? Talking about the Vancouver Canucks, the Ottawa Senators, the Buffalo Sabres, Anaheim Ducks, the Columbus Blue Jackets, and the Philadelphia Flyers. Most of them are on the downside right now. Honestly, they have a straight of 6-7 loss. And then some of them, like Buffalo, lost again. That's on one more. They struggled. I know Columbus would beat the Philadelphia last game, and then Anaheim won again Detroit on overtime, and then on shootout, whatever it was. And then, no, it was on overtime. And then the Vancouver beat yesterday 5-4. So just give us a bit what any other team, but honestly, I'm talking about maybe the team maybe not make the playoff that direction. You know what I mean?
None of these teams.
Yes.
None of these teams.
You could almost add Pittsburgh to this list too, right? Like Pittsburgh was flirting with that just recently. They had like 7 losses in a row. The games that I've seen, they've looked like crap. So,
but they're not the middle of the standing and the metropolitan right now. Pittsburgh.
They remind me of St. Louis. Like right now, I would not discount St. Louis, and we're seeing why the last 3 games.
Yeah,
and same thing with Pittsburgh. If their big guns get going, they can ride them for a while. The problem is Jarry really hasn't been himself again.
I was gonna say he's like he was 2 years ago.
I don't get it. Weird. I don't get it.
So good last year, and he carried them on his shoulders. And 2 years ago, it was like, what's wrong with this guy? So it's
so you consider Vancouver out of the race. They're not going to come back.
No, they were showing they had a statistic in the Ottawa game, and I'm sure it applies to most of these teams on this list. In order for Ottawa to get to 100 points, which is what you needed to get into the playoffs last year, they would need to go like 48-12 or something like that for the rest of the season. So
not gonna happen.
I know it's not probably exactly that number, but it's in that neighborhood. And I'm assuming that most of these teams would have to play almost like 650, 700 hockey, if not more, to get in. And I just don't see any of these teams able to do that.
It makes sense. So I'm going to go 2 questions. The first question is, give me, and then you can go with ENORTAP, Vancouver, Marko, Ottawa, Buffalo, Michael, then restart ENORTAP, Anaheim, Columbus, and then we'll go like this. Give me a reason why they are there right now. What is the problem they have, or what the hole they have? I was starting to start with Vancouver.
Their defense, JT
Yep, that's
Miller
it.
has not produced, and
You got 10
Demko
goals in
hasn't.
17 games.
And
Sorry,
Demko, dear God, Demko,
Demko.
my God, he's been
Demko has not been anywhere near what he's
no.
been in the past. I think he's under 900 save percentage. He's around 885 or something, and that's not going to cut
870.
it.
But
Yeah,
there's a reason. Like
That's terrible.
look at both goalies under 900. You've got to think like 1, 8, and 2. Something's going on with him. I don't know what it is. So that
I
is
mean,
crazy.
there's so much you can blame your defense. A part of that is probably that as well. I don't think that they have a real stud. I mean, I know Quinn
He's
is
not.
he's an offensive stud, but he's not defensively.
You're going to
Vancouver
come to
though is it's
he's
even
like
deeper than that, guys. Like I know it's easy to just look at the goaltending and the defense, but to me this is like we talked about Winnipeg. There's like a cancer or kind of like a weird feel to that dressing room. Like Vancouver is like guys, like let's just realize like they completely changed their management team and their coach just last year. And the core of that team still looks like completely uninterested after they had a really strong finish to the year last year. Like what's changed? Like you've changed everything else. So it's clear that you just need to change that core. Like it's not working. You need to
yeah. So
really shake that whole thing up.
if you go down, like Horvat's having career goal scoring year, you got 20 points in 17 games for Peterson. JT Miller's got 10 goals in 17 games, but he's a -8. So
Yeah.
He's
that's
awful.
not good,
He's been playing awful.
right?
Yeah.
Kuzmenko, 7 goals in 16 games, doing what, more than you would expect. I think he was sat for a game, which is weird. Brock Besser, though, is a big hole in this club. No goals, only 11 games. So is this an injury?
Yeah, he was coming back from an injury.
So that hurts them. Like that doesn't help. Connor Garland's a weird dude anyway, and your big move was to bring in Mikheyev, which I just think is just a totally overrated player. Although it is 8 points in 14 games, and he's a +4, so
Although,
maybe he's
yeah, when he came back, they actually won a couple
good.
games. And maybe it's not a direct relationship there, but at least he gives them some speed, size, and some good penalty killing time.
But I think it's one of those teams, guys, where looking at the point totals doesn't give you an accurate picture of what the games look like. If you watch the games, yeah, like if you just look at their overall production so far this year, you're like, yeah, there's a lot of these guys that don't seem to be really having a bad season. But when you look at them play collectively as a team, like, yikes.
Yeah. So this is what I was saying. Like, okay, so then you think this is where then you go, okay, this doesn't make sense because I got those guys playing really well, but then I'm having a terrible year from Tanner Pearson. I'm having a terrible year from Niels Höglander, right? So that doesn't help. But then you go, why are some guys plus and some guys Podkolzin is, 0 goals, right? So that's not helping you. Then you go, okay, well, so what am I watching here? There's something disconnected with the way they play. They're not managing the puck. That's coaching. That's definitely coaching in my mind. I think that they have not had. I don't know. Look at Bruce Boudreau teams. They're always kind of this, fire wagon type style. I mean,
it hasn't been that long of a stretch of time, though, Michael. I agree, but it's Boudreau brought him out of the woods last year to almost a playoff spot, and now
Absolutely.
we're turning around and saying maybe they're not listening to him now.
If it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck.
I don't know. I think they are listening to him. I think this is his style of hockey, which doesn't
I see.
necessarily work. Like I think you can't play like when you see a sub 900 save percentage for a guy that arguably should be a top 7 goalie in the NHL. There's something structurally going on here.
No, I've watched the games. I've watched the games, Michael. Like the pucks are going through him, man. I get there's probably some high danger chances, and he's been really bad. Yeah.
Now the other thing was how many penalty minutes this team has. Like you've got 15 minutes for JT Miller, 35 for Luke Shen, 21 for Tanner Pearson, 35 for Tyler Myers, 23 for Dakota Johnson, like 17 for Kyle Burrow. Like what is going on?
It's easy. All the underlying number on the analytic, it's below 50.
It's wacky.
So they gave high danger chance scoring and front of net. It's 44. Right. The puck position is below 50. They don't possess the puck on the offensive zone. They don't keep the puck. And thirdly, the XGF is 47, I believe 43. So that's all combined together.
It's really bad.
And then Demko cannot stop the puck. That's another big problem. When you said your best goalie is Martin, that's a problem. Right? When you said your best player is your 4-line players, we are in the trouble right now. And that's the same thing right now. Your backup is better to your number one. That's the problem they have in Vancouver. So we'll be interesting about this. We have to move on because we have a lot of teams to talk about. And Ottawa Senator and MARKO, one thing you believe was the problem over there?
Not one thing, but I think, the easy one is to say, the injuries, because Norris, and Chabot and Talbot were out for a while. Like those. So injuries, and those are big. It's like your number one center. But what I did is when I think about that is, okay, well, how were they playing when those guys were still there? And they had a decent start, but they were a 500 team. So, it's tough, right? Like, so yes, those injuries are causing a bit of a problem. I wasn't a huge fan of the Talbot move during the summer anyways. Forsberg is, I guess a 1A, like a 1A minus, probably more suited as a backup. He carried them, he played really well for them, back end of last year. But to me, they didn't really address the goaltending properly, and they still have some issues on the back end. So it seems like to me like a chemistry experiment a little bit, like what Dorion did. Like on paper, it looks awesome, but you really don't know what it's going to look like until it's all put together, right? So you look at that top nine, and you think they probably have one of the best top nines in the league. But is it the right chemistry? Like, is it the right mix of players? I think that's kind of what I would point to.
You got to think that at some point they're saying Mad Sogard, Mad Sogard, Mad Sogard. Like that's who long term the guy is. He's not ready yet, and they're just trying to hold on. I mean, I don't think that they're trying to win the Stanley Cup this year. They want to see improvement, but they're not going to get anywhere with Cam Talbot and Forsberg.
All right, let's move on with Buffalo. Michael.
Is this a goaltending issue? They've got arguably the best defenseman in the world right now in Rasmus Dahlin, unless you believe that's Erik Karlsson. Like I think you watch him night in, night out, and you're like, holy crap, this guy's game has gone to another level. Owen Power has not been bad. Look out, he's suddenly got 8 points on the season. Yokoharu's been out for a bit. He's been out. Like they've been missing some parts sometimes, but in the end, Craig Anderson seems like the wheels might have just popped off. So I don't know if this is all his fault, but the guy's 43 or 44, right? Like,
yeah,
need another.
They just lost Comrie tonight, so.
And Comrie's not like.
Both goaltender are below 0.9 or right now.
Yeah, what's crazy is like you look at how Allmark is playing in Boston right now.
They could have used him.
Like when they, I was like, this is a good goalie. Why are you letting him go? And I don't know if this was just like a transition thing where they didn't understand. And the other guy, Pekka Lukan, whatever his name is just still not panning out. I just never understood it. Like Allmark was a good goalie, but there's so much chaos in Buffalo that I think that just got lost in translation. Like, he's part of the problem. I'm like, how? Like, this guy was such an excellent piece to the team. And,
he changed, maybe he went back with maybe he went with Charles Kruger and changed sports and became a soccer player instead.
Yeah, but you have to be careful, right? The time was there that the team was not very good, and he became a UFA. So the player who does whatever they don't want, maybe they want to keep him, but he does not want to play in Buffalo. So you have to see on the other side, on that side over there. Let's move on with Anaheim, Mr. ENORTAP.
junk.
Yeah, well, that's basically it. They're at the bottom of the league in almost every possible category. Yes, they do have, some nice pieces that they can build on for the future. But again, look at the one goalie that everybody was after, Gibson, and he's another disappointment this year. And if he can't keep him in games, then they don't have the personnel. They definitely don't have the defense, and they don't have the depth to keep up with everybody else. You'll get the odd game where they're really into it, and you get Zegras and company doing well, but for the most part, they're going to be behind the eight ball all the time.
I have two words for Anaheim. It's green bananas. They're green bananas.
They are green bananas. Listen, when Olin Zellweger makes the team next year and Drysdale back,
yeah.
But I think I don't know what it is. Like, John Gibson needs to get out of Anaheim. You can.
He doesn't want to though.
He's told
his agents talked about he doesn't want to leave Anaheim.
That doesn't. He's dumb, because this is not serving him being in Southern California. Like, he is not engaged the way John Gibson should be. Like, this does not make any sense. Now, I don't believe in the coaching, and maybe that's okay for Pat Verbeek, because he's looking ahead to a crazy draft, saying, "Hey, one more piece, guys, one more piece." But I don't know. Like, he traded away Mancini.
They're in trouble if they're living on the merits of the first half of last year.
No, they traded those guys though. They moved
that's
them,
what
right?
I'm saying. They moved them, and I didn't understand that.
Anyways,
and didn't they also pick up Klingberg as well?
Well, and he's terrible. I mean, you're seeing night in, night out how bad this guy is. Like, I don't even know if the puck if he's good.
But I thought perhaps they did it so that they can at least at trade deadline time get a first round pick for him at the very least. And they're not going to get very much.
They still might. I want to read out these numbers again. Like, this is wacky. 18 penalty minutes for who? Trevor Zegras. What the hell's going on, guys? 20 penalty minutes for Kevin Shattenkirk. 44 for Comtois. This is a guy that looked like a 20-goal scorer. 20 penalty minutes for Boyot. 23 for Max Jones. 20 for Simon Benoit. Like, this is
Beaulieu makes sense though, because he takes majors, man. Beaulieu, he's had a couple of fighting majors. Yeah.
For sure he has. Yeah. But I think it's, you're not going to win sitting in the box.
Michael, that
so on the topic of Anaheim, what pieces are they moving out of there, and what pieces do you think other teams are going to want to look at?
I think a lot of teams would want
right-hand D is a huge premium right now.
Yeah, Shattenkirk is an obvious one. I think Frank Vetrano would be attractive. I think Henrique would be attractive. Klingberg is going to get moved. The guy you would really should want is Ryan Strome. Like, he is like so consistent. He's a 200-foot player. Like, look at his numbers. He's got 11 points in 16 games, 5 goals. Every year, this guy gets 18, 20 goals, 30 some odd assists. He's 49, 50 points. Like, he is
Rangers
just a
might want him back. The Rangers might want him back because,
like, look at the Rangers without him. They've gone to Vinny Trocheck, and yes, the numbers are better, but they ain't winning more. Like, he was the defensive conscious of that team.
And you just had this, like, je ne sais quoi with Panarin too, right? With players like that, like, they're hard players to play with, and you just need to find the right fit. And when you find one, it's surprising that they let him go. I think on paper, Trocheck looks like a superior player, right? I think most people would say that, but it doesn't look like it's been the right fit so far.
I agree.
All right. What about Columbus Blue Jacket, Marco?
Tough position, like a weird franchise. Like again, looking at their summer, so they go like everybody's going to point to Goudreau, but then Gudbranson for $5 million for 4 years or whatever that was. Just really weird, and I think it's weird because Kaikalainen is such a respected GM, right? Like, I think we all grudgingly felt bad for him when Panarin left the team, Bobrovsky left the team, and he was really brave and went all in and didn't trade those guys and went for it. So, you know, it's weird that what Columbus is doing. Like they have these great assets coming up. You have Sillinger that you thought might kind of take a little bit of a step this year. Hasn't really worked out yet. They've been playing Boone Jenner on the first line with Gaudreau and Laine when they've been healthy.
No other
Which
option.
I have a lot of respect for Boone Jenner, and I think there's a lot of teams like maybe the Maple Leafs that would benefit from picking up a player like Boone Jenner, like really solid player and a good playoff guy potentially, even though he's never played that much playoffs because it's Columbus. But just a very strange team that seems to not have a clear direction. A lot of interesting pieces there, but you wonder how much rope Kekalainen's going to have here because it doesn't look like a clear plan is really in play for me from looking at it from the outside.
Yeah, I mean, you look at, first of all, you've got to start at the back end. I don't know if the goaltending is ever as great as they ever say. If you look at the numbers the last 3-4 years of these guys, they've never justified that.
Been
horrible. Like just terrible.
Yeah.
But then you look at the defensive structure and you go, who's your best defenseman? It's Zach Werenski, right? Like this guy's a little bit of a riverboat gambler. He doesn't feel like a number one defenseman to me. And then who's number two?
And he's hurt.
Gavrikov?
Now Bovis.
Who is?
Boqvist, Boqvist.
Boqvist.
Yes, Adam Boqvist, right. But where's he right now?
They are all injury. The problem that Columbus is easy. It's injury. It's injuries. That's it. That's all. And they don't have a number one. They don't have a center to carry on. Laney and Gaudreau. That's the two old they have.
Liney's played 8 games. He's out again. 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Or
like good teams like you. Everybody deals with injuries. I just don't like the plan. I just don't like where this is going. It seems very disjointed. They're going to really regret that good Branson signing if they don't already. Like I don't know what he was thinking with that one.
I don't.
Yeah, but they draft really well. Their prospect is one of the top 6 in NHL. So they have Sillinger, they have Johnson, they have a lot of young players over there. I think they have to wait a little bit longer. And Gaudreau came in their hands with no expectations. So the plan was not to get Gaudreau, but they got it. I think if they can get a veteran center at 28 years old, 29 years old, can play between both of them with a little bit at 200 feet, play the game 200. I think they are helping them. And right now they can
trade you Sean Monahan for
Johnson there. They're going to get killed. Okay, opening players, opening first line.
Maybe Johnny Gaudreau should have been smarter and just stayed in Calgary, because both of them were, I mean, you were the star in Calgary. You had a system built so that you could have success. Like, hey, we'll play heavy and you do your thing. Like they made so much room for him. Yeah, you're losing Matthew Tkachuk. Okay, great, but Huberdeau is a reasonable factor. And you probably still could have brought in Kadri.
Yeah. All right, let's move on because we have a lot of talks to about and we're not done yet. Philadelphia, guys, what do you think about that?
I think it's a mirage, similar to Montreal. You know, Carter Hart right now is like MVP level, like, statistics right now, like just playing out of his mind. And, like Tortorella's got them like, running on fumes for now, but it's not going to last.
But they're on a 4-game losing streak. Like, are they 4 or 6? Like they're getting.
I think it's whooped. 4. Yeah.
So
they're good, strong start.
Like,
all right. My last question for this one, because we have to move on, is which team is going to tank or completely give up on the season right now? I know you have to pick 1 or 2 teams. Which team do you see right now? Say, you know what, this is over. We go to get Connor Bedard.
Anaheim.
Vancouver.
Anaheim has no interest in winning.
Yeah,
I'd say. Well, I'll say who it's not. And it's weird because everything they've done on the ice, which like at the management level would say that they are, but their coach won't let them. Which is Andre Tourigny in Phoenix. If you watch that team, like they play hard, man. Like that, the Bear will not let them not compete, right? So I think Phoenix, or Arizona, sorry, he's a really good coach, man. Like after, I would have him like as my next guy after Martin Saint-Louis for sure. I've always been a huge fan. So I'd agree. Probably Anaheim or Chicago, I think, is probably where it lands.
Looks at
Tanking wise.
Vancouver, and William Snyder said San Jose about that one there. All right, let's move on to the next one because you talk about this. We're not sure. Here we go. That's the thing we're not sure right now. So, what do you believe they're going to happen with those teams in the future? Calgary, Pittsburgh, Washington, Nashville, Minnesota, and Seattle. They are all right now on between third ranking on their division until 6. So 5, 4, 5, 6. So who do you believe could have a turnover? And yet, no problem. Calgary's be in, or Pittsburgh's going to be in. Washington, maybe not. Nashville, I don't think so. Minnesota, maybe. Who Seattle can handle this all the way to the end. So you can talk like the way I just mentioned to you. It's not my opinion. Just give you an example about this. And we can go one by one, and then we can add comments about that.
I think Calgary and Minnesota should be in. Pittsburgh will be bubble. Washington should be out. I think Nashville, by process of elimination, will be out. And Seattle is playing great, but they're going to come down a little bit and find themselves on the outside looking in.
I think Calgary in, Pittsburgh in, Nashville in, Minnesota, man. Like they have a lot of injuries right now, and Fleury just went down. What's their record right now, Minnie? They're third in the division.
8-7 number 5, I believe.
So they're still right there. It's not like Ottawa or a team like that.
No. They are
a few
like
games under 500.
One game over.
So I'll say Minnesota gets in there. So to me, the only ones out of this list that are not in would be Washington and Seattle. I think Seattle, they'll play meaningful games though.
Who do you see not Minnesota, but Nashville overtaking to get that last position?
I mean, what's wrong on paper with Nashville? It makes no sense. They're starting to claw out of it. They got a top goalie. They got lots of offense, and the difference between this year and last year to me is Roman out of his mind, right? So I think he's just playing okay.
There's 4 pieces, Michael. 4 pieces.
Yeah, what are the 4? I'm trying to figure it out.
Yossi hasn't played to the level he was at last year. Saros hasn't been at the same level.
He's coming around.
Forsberg hasn't been scoring at the same level. And let's face it, Duchesne had a year off the charts last year that he's never produced before, and he won't again. And that's where most of their offense was coming from. Like I like Tanner. Who?
Ryan Johansson too, right?
Yeah, Johansson's always been up and down.
Yeah, so I think you guys are right. Like I'm looking at kind of who's in right now, and I'm a good way to think about it is okay. So right now, Edmonton and Calgary are in the wild card spots. So which team that's leading their divisions in the top 3 could come out? And really, it's only Seattle that I can envision coming out. So
I have no faith in Seattle. I have zero faith.
No, so I think maybe I think maybe Calgary comes and bumps. So either Calgary or Edmonton will jump into the top 3 in the Pacific, which will open up one spot as a wild card. So Nashville is the team that would beat out Seattle, is what I would say.
Is it just my misunderstanding, or is Calgary are Daryl Sutter teams only in the playoffs when he has a fast start? Like, I don't think he's a guy that comes from behind. Like, if you look at last year, they were playing out of their mind. They're first in the division right from the get-go.
I think he's very stringent and hard taken on a particular system. And right now, it's not necessarily fitting the team. I know that they have some injuries on defense, but still, he doesn't budge. And I saw that in the playoffs last year. in the playoffs last year, you know, that series against Dallas, I know Ottinger played out of his mind, but it should not
Yeah.
have been as close as it was.
It was easily that series because they missed Danev on the left side. That's
Okay,
changed completely
that's
the
one
pairing
guy, but
defenseman.
they
he's
had so
part
much
of it.
Yeah,
talent to
but
coach.
I think Gerd play like Dominic Hachek. So without Dallas, without Odegaard, this series in 5. That's
But that's
simple.
what I said. I said a big part of it was Ottinger, but
Yep.
if you looked at how the lines were rolled out, whether they were at home or on the road, there was never much variation to it.
There's none. The guy, he's not a guy that makes adjustments in the game. He's more likely to say, "Come on, guys," he'll swear at you. He'll tell a funny joke, but he's not a guy to make adjustments in the game. The power play has always been what it is. He barely made adjustments last year, and now he's got less talent. So really, he kind of
I
just
think,
let guys
yeah,
do their thing.
I think
I just don't
Calgary's
out of
one top 6 forward away. I think if they need to add a little bit more scoring somehow, like Huberdeau's playing on the third line right now, so that's clearly going to be,
ridiculous.
yeah.
I know. Yeah, you
This is
can't do
my
that.
point. Look back at LA, and Dustin Brown's career appeared over. They ripped the C off of him. Get rid of Daryl Sutter. Suddenly he's back on the top line. And you thought, this guy is old. He's done. No, he can still play. Like, what's going on? He just buried him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I didn't expect it to be as bad as we're seeing right now, but
Yeah.
you know, I mentioned this at the beginning of the year, and I know Coach laughed a little bit at me. I said they had the perfect events last year to get them where they got. Right? They had Markstrom that played. That was probably top 2 in the league, top 2 or 3. Oh, beautiful. Husky.
Melting off.
Yeah. You know, their defensemen collectively had, I believe, 5 man injured days. That's it. And then their forwards,
Wow.
we know what happened. They were all clicking. Their top line was clicking at an enormous pace, and they had they picked good pickups into Foley to go in and help out. They were just solid, and everything went well. So know that there has to have been some kind of regression to the norm when that happens, and we're seeing
That's
it
good
now.
analysis. Yeah, that's a good analysis. And then it all came to a screeching halt when they met Mike Smith in the playoffs.
Like, what? Like, come on, it's crazy. But that's what happens when you're predicting. Like the other coaches are now putting double duty film time on you, and they're like, okay, well, do we have to watch anymore? I see the same thing every time. They're always coming out the left side. They're always entering on the right side. They're going to go down the wall, back up, and then they're going to try to walk to the middle, even though it's under pressure.
But most games I've seen of Calgary, like most of I've watched quite a few games, and the ones that they've lost, like I feel that they've still completely dominated the game. Just completely dominated the game. But like again, I just not finishing, just not enough finishing, right? Like so like if you can add like another scoring winger into that top 9, you can bump down like a Dubé maybe a little bit. Like they have Dubé like on the second line. He's a great energy player, but yeah. So I think you just need a little bit more finesse there. It's a little bit more finishing, and just that one extra goal here and there I think would make a huge difference. And Markstrom, he doesn't have to be as good, like he doesn't have to be Mr. Universe again, but just over like 905, I think, gets them, I think, pretty far.
Dylan Dubé is
You're all about Calgary, but they are 7-6-2. They are +5 and +1. They are still play over 500. They are only 3 points behind the second line, the second team in this division. They are -3, and the differential goal in Los Angeles is -2.
That's a big
and they don't have a scorer yet. Imagine when they go to start to score.
-3. They're -3. I don't think there was a single team in the playoffs last year that went in with a minus. Maybe Dallas, maybe.
Yeah, but
Usually, if
understand.
you
So what
if
about the Suns Kings? You put them out too. They are -2.
well, originally, if you recall, we had them around third or fourth when we did our predictions at the beginning of the year. So I don't know. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what kind of changes they make along the way. A couple of teams, especially.
So ENORTAP,
But
you don't think Nashville will overtake Seattle for that last wild card?
well, they could overtake Seattle. I'm just wondering,
-10
like
Nashville.
they're at -10 as well, which is not great. They're like I see a lot of improvement from last year for Seattle, and I think that they've done some great moves in the off season, and they've kind of balanced a little bit their offense a little bit, but I don't see them in the playoffs. I really don't.
Oh.
All right, let's move on now to the next guy, guys. We're going to go to the player surprise. Robinson, Carlson, and Bo Horvat. Horvat 14 goals. Carlson dominate the defenseman at about 25, I believe. And Robinson is 25, and then Carlson was 22. Everybody was worried about Robinson signed maybe one of the last players signed a contract at the end of the beginning of the season. And they are there. Yeah, any other players or one you want to talk about those three players for them?
I don't know. How's Robertson a surprise? Like he's a 40 goal scorer.
So good.
Yeah.
Like this is not by accident. I think I had some players down for surprise. Carlson, I mean, he's playing out of his mind.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's just like, hey, I'm going to lead this team or I want the hell out of this team. Who can tell with him? There seems to be drama that follows him around. So, it's a little weird. I think the big surprises for me, and Horvat, like, was he 15 goals or 14 goals?
14 goals.
14.
So that's kind of interesting. For me, the guy that I thought would kind of take a step back is Tage Thompson. Absolutely has not taken a step back. So if he remains healthy, like that is that a 40 goal scorer? He's on pace for more than that probably.
Yeah.
And then the other guy that's like, I mean, what's a better signing your own guy contract than Jesper Bratt right now? I mean, he's just
those are good.
Yeah, you're right.
So the two that I would add would be sorry, go ahead. Did you want to go first, ENORTAP? I'm afraid you're going to steal my players. You're going to steal my players.
Go ahead.
So I'll go with first of all with the hometown bias. I think Jack-Eye is a huge surprise. Like just being able to play in the NHL, so that's a fun surprise. Probably the other one that I would have on here would be Velarde. Velarde's kind of huge rebirth. Yeah, huge rebirth for him, or finally kind of living through on that potential. So those would probably be the biggest surprise. And I had Carlson on my list as well.
Yeah.
So you consider Jack-Eye better to the Nick Suzuki? Like you think is a bigger surprise Jack-Eye versus Nick Suzuki?
What's surprising about Suzuki? He had 70.
Yeah, it's not surprising. It's not surprising. Like again, he might be Suzuki might be overperforming or performing better than we thought, but we knew that he's going to play in the NHL and be playing on the first line. I never thought he's
going to score 10 goals. If you tell me he's going to have 10 goals the first 16 games, I would say no, not at all.
But how can you say that's less surprising than Jack-Eye playing in the NHL?
He played on the third pairing, Marco. Yeah. How he can be a surprise for the Montreal? He's not the best He's not the best player for the Montreal Canadiens. How he can consider Jack-Eye as the biggest surprise for the Montreal Canadiens? How when he play an average 16 minutes and he play on the third pairing?
Because nobody ever thought that he would be playing in the NHL or even close to that this year. That's why.
Yep.
Again, it's not the biggest surprise. He's not the top best players right now. He's not the top best 20 best defensemen in NHL.
Well, no. I guess we define surprise differently. I guess if surprise means you have to be an elite player in the NHL, then I guess you're right. But in terms of surprise, like, hey, we were expecting this guy to play in the AHL. And
the only reason he played in the NHL right now because you have many injuries at the beginning of the season. That's the first thing there. The second leg of his one maybe the top best defenseman in the Memorial Cup last season in NHL. So if you don't expect him to be what he is right now, it's because you didn't follow him last season since he played hockey for the
I
last
followed
12
him very
months in
close.
NHL.
I followed him very closely all throughout the playoffs last year, and I knew he was a good player. But I don't think there's anybody, at least on this panel or through most of the hockey universe, that gave him much chance at the beginning of training camp to start the season in Montreal, even with the injuries. Like, I wish Coach, we should go back and listen to
You're
the
right.
clips of your shows. There's a lot of Schooneman. Okay, we'll have a Schooneman. We'll have those guys. So to me, yeah, even Barron, right? Yeah,
I thought Barron would be in the top 4. I thought he'd be number 4 defenseman.
yeah.
I mean, that's a negative. Jack has definitely surpassed him right now, but I think at the same time,
it's just the definition.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definition.
Yeah.
I think I'm happy with having a breakthrough is Kirby Dach.
Yeah, and I would just add two other players to that in terms of surprises as coach defines it. One would be in Boston with Hampus Lindholm, who's right now at 17 points. Who would have thunk that when they got him? I don't
totally mishandled Anaheim. That's why I say Gibson's got to get the hell out of Anaheim.
Yeah, and then this is a real surprise for me in Seattle. Martin Jones. He's been a big reason why they, he's found his way.
I wouldn't bet on him. I wouldn't bet on him in long term here, but
yeah, I agree. I agree with that
for sure. Yeah.
What about Dominic Kubalik? I mean, the guy's got 18 points on the season.
Yeah, very good. Good choice.
Totally.
Guy they penciled.
How about Austin Matthews? Sorry.
Yeah, Austin who?
Carter Verhey have 10 goals, by the way.
Isn't that crazy? He's such a good player.
Good player. I think carrying that momentum over from the really strong playoffs, was probably Florida's best player in the playoffs last year, and just kind of carrying that over.
Sam Reinhart struggled, and so has the other Sam Bennett.
He actually had a good
Florida's
game tonight, but you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I have to give credit for Chemnikov, 12 goals in 16 games for the Carolina Hurricane. That's another one really where I always said to you.
Wow.
Do you guys know much about ready for this? The leading rookie so far, Mateus Maccelli from Arizona.
Guys, I wrote down the top of my page ENORTAP, and you can see it right here. Who is Mateus Maccelli?
I'm still trying to figure it out.
Who is this guy? Well, the other guy we were talking about in Carolina, by the way, Martin Necas.
Nishas is amazing.
That's a good surprise.
Holy crap. This is a guy we were like, what's wrong with this guy? A year ago.
Yeah. If there was an award for finally that he would win that award. Yeah.
Maybe. I think we're going to look back and go, oh, his stats weren't that bad. I think when you look at maybe our expectation was just out of whack, because if you look at his numbers, you're going to go, oh, this guy he had 14 goals and 40 points last year.
Who is the best scorer for Toronto? Number of the point?
Tavares.
Isn't it Tavares?
Tavares? Following by who?
Yeah. Probably Marner.
Nope.
Nylander?
Yep.
Nylander?
Yep.
Nylander? Yeah.
That's crazy. You think about that.
The second
good for him. That contract.
Well, they haven't been playing Matthews and Marner together for I think four games now. So they have Nylander playing with Matthews, and they have Marner playing with Tavares. Yeah.
That's probably a better fit.
All right, let's move on. Next one, guys. 3 players struggle here. I talk about because they are more the same age, and it was expected when they got draft over there. And Lafreniere have only 2 goals this season. Kokanemi have 1 goal or 2 goals. And then Newhook does not produce with the time they have over there with a team like Colorado over there. So of course, you can put other players there, but I just want to compare for 3. What do you expect them a long-term possibility? Or do you believe they're really going to, because they never reach what they expect so far? And we talk about 3 years and inside that league now.
Yeah. Well, Newhook hasn't had as much of an extended look as those other guys, right? Like Newhook, I think really only started getting full-time games midway through the season last year, if I'm not mistaken. Like he didn't play the full season last year, and if so, it wasn't in a very prominent top six role. So it's a pretty big adjustment for him. But when it comes to Kakanyemi, it's shocking. You know, like I picked him up in my pool because I'm like, he's playing with Nichas and with Svechnikov. So just
And
by
still
being
doesn't get the
alive,
points.
That makes
just
no
by
sense.
being
That he's playing
alive, he's going to pick up some points, right? But he had, like, I'd watched a Carolina game. They won like 7-0, and he had no points, and they just won 7-0.
with
It's
a
just,
terrible
I just don't
skater.
understand.
He's not a good
Yeah.
player. I mean, this is a guy that should never have. If you go back and look at that overall draft, like a
Kachuk.
lot of guys have not like. Well, Kachuk should have been the guy, and I would never
Yeah.
understood that from people. Like,
That was
oh,
the
he's
big
not a
mistake.
Like, it's Brady Kachuk. Like we all knew this guy was like a monster, right? But you look at Zadina, he hasn't worked out. Barrett Hayden has not worked out. That draft has been kind of a weird draft, right? And there was those were guys that jumped up and then jumped back, and it was just a really weird one of those strange years where we probably overrated a bunch of guys.
Yeah, like, well, there's Quentin Hughes. That was right after that as well. You brought him up earlier. Who's I always forget his name. The guy that playing for the Islanders that came out from that draft. Well, there was Dobson and the four that the Islanders
Wallstrom.
got.
Wallstrom.
Wallstrom. Yeah. Yeah, like I remember in that draft I was pretty high on Wallstrom and everybody like laughed me out of the building. But today,
Really?
would you take Wallstrom over Kotkaniemi at number 3, right?
But I
Would
would
you
not
take
take
Wallstrom over Kotkaniemi at number 3?
The big problem with Wallstrom was always like fitness and commitment and hard work, right? Like he always had amazing hands and he was big. So from that point of view, he's definitely achieved a lot. He's definitely always probably been a better prospect than Kotkaniemi. Kravstov's not turned out. Bachfist, and Hughes, like everybody knew there were some pretty good defensemen in this draft. So I think if anything, Dobson moves up, Bachfist probably moves up, and you just be patient. Evan Bouchard moves up. Like to me, those are the guys. Zadina still kind of surprises me. Hayton, weird. I don't know what's going on there, but it's just a weird draft. Like Joel Farabee, you would say is better than Kotkaniemi, right? Like it's just everybody. I mean, Bernard Docker, like there's Keandre Miller. There's some really good defensemen in that draft.
I don't know. Every time I see the name Kotkaniemi, I just see that woman when they address the him of the.
Yeah. The
And
Van
other
Gogh.
part
I
you
call
want
it
to
the
talk
Van
about
Gogh look.
struggle, you feel so. First of all, we want to welcome back William Snyder and Steve G out in the house from Denver,
Welcome,
Colorado.
guys.
I'm not agree with us about New Hook.
I mean, Lafreniere continues to perplex me a little bit.
Yeah.
I understand your first overall. He's one of these guys, again, where there's always a risk with a guy that's an overager, and he's a late birthday. And so if you take him with his draft class, I don't know if you would have picked him, like when I say his draft class, like because he's a late birthday, would you pick him above any of the guys that went top 4 in the prior year? And I don't think you would.
I still like him. Like I again, it's one of those things. It's the curse of actually being number 1 in that year, and
Sure.
But look at Stützle too, right? Like Stützle, and like that's going to be an interesting. Yeah, so that's going to be kind of, they're going to always be paired and compared, for years to come. Stützle hasn't exactly lit it up so far this year either, but he had a really strong. But Lafreniere had a really strong playoff too, right? Like didn't produce, but really grew. Seemed to be turning a corner during the playoffs. So do you chalk it up to just an overall kind of strange beginning to the season for the Rangers, or is it really Lafreniere that's regressed a little bit from what we saw in the playoffs? That's the question.
There's something weird going on for the Rangers, for sure.
There is.
So I don't, they keep burying that guy in the third line with Scheidel, and the other in Kako. So that's, 3 guys really that are highly rated that are still being treated like they're rookies. So I think that's one weird thing. Stützle, by the way, has 17 points in 16 games. So I think you would take the 80 some odd points. He's on pace for,
How many
career
goals
year.
does he have? How many
6
goals does he have now? 6?
6 goals, 11 assists. So, I mean, you've got to be pretty happy. That's probably the top player. And for 3 years before, if you go back to when these guys were 12 and 13, that 2002 birth year, Lucas Raymond was the best player in the world. Like, what am I missing? He was always rated first overall for years and years and years. And it was one World Junior. You're like, what the heck? Like, he drops down.
Kemmel is last year's Raymond. I think Kemmel will be kind of the same. Yeah.
It's possible. He's very talented.
Yeah.
Any other players before we move on to the award for the night, so we can shut down everybody at 11 o'clock?
Is this just for young players, coach, or just disappointments in general?
No, it was just because I was talking about that age, right? That we have right now. But no, it can be other players. I was just because they're almost set up on the same age.
Oliver Bjorkstrand has got 1 goal, guys. Like, this is a guy that's a 30 goal scorer in the NHL, right? Yeah. The 2 guys in Oilers land that really needed to get some points so they could trade them and get something, and maybe it doesn't matter because maybe they can move these guys to Anaheim and get Gibson and have a reclamation. But, both Puya Harvey and Yamamoto are playing horrible. And, Dylan Holloway, I thought, would have done better.
Surprise.
Yeah. So, I mean,
yeah.
You thought they would have done a little better. Like, they both are not total, but the guy that's terrible is Jack Campbell.
See, that's where I was going. Is next category of struggling is goaltenders. And,
oh my God! Overall.
Yeah, so Demko and Campbell. Luckily, I didn't choose Campbell in my pool, but I do have Demko in my pool. And every time I do a live stream with Coach, I remind everyone on Hockey Nation Live, you can please trade Demko from me. I'm open to all offers for Patrick Demko. But can you guys hear me okay?
It's something
broken. It's broken.
Okay. Is that a bit better?
Yeah.
No,
is that a bit better?
There you go.
Okay. So I just wanted to bring up the goaltenders. Like, those are really problematic, underperforming for both those teams.
Anybody else?
Tara Vinen has no goals in 7. So who are you going to say? Austin Matthews?
What
are you going to say? I don't know.
No, I was going to say, dare I bring the name up? Jonathan Drouin? Jonathan Drouin?
No, that's
not surprising. I think you have to put in Huberdeau, though. Huberdeau should definitely be in that mix, too, for sure.
Yeah.
We want to welcome Stu Picasso is in the house right now. Welcome to Stu. And then we have about 8 minutes. So what we do at the end of the show, the roundtable is going to be like this every Wednesday night, guys, 9 o'clock. Sometime one of them cannot show. We're going to bring some guests like Randy Rockman, Kevin Francis. We're going to bring more people and the chat. But we want to start with you guys tonight. Well, we have to go with always at the end of the show is going to be 2 prizes. One's called the Orange Rewards or Awards. As for the players, maybe not surprised to have a good week or a good month or a last beginning of the season. All depends. Honestly, it's not like you have to be like the top NHL player right there, but maybe someone you want to recognize, have your best player for you for the week or whatever I just mentioned. So is this the orange team and the orange players you have to mention to us today? And if you have one team and one player you want to mention, and then everybody can mention your own award. So one of you is ready, just mention it.
Well, if we're talking orange team, then the first player and team that has an orange jersey that I can think of would be the Flyers, orange jersey, and Carter Hart. Like, I think not if you exclude their record has kind of dropped over the last couple games. To me, if you had to vote on kind of like the most valuable player to his team so far this season, I think would be Carter Hart. Just I don't think it's sustainable, but like purely on merit, he's my Team Orange player. Yeah.
So I want you to select one player and one team.
Okay.
So
San Jose.
I selected my player.
So Carter Hart is your players, and now you have to select one team.
So I'll choose. This might be a little bit weird, and I still don't believe in them, but I'll say the Washington Capitals because of the fact that they are somehow hanging in there with all the injuries that they have. I was already not really that convinced that they were going to be a playoff team this year, but I'm sure if I go back to my predictions in the warm-up show over the last 2 weeks, I never choose Washington because I'm like, it's gonna catch up with them eventually, but they're somehow staying in the mix. So in a way, like that's really impressive, and it's kind of like what we thought Boston was going to be. Like we thought Boston was going to have to just survive until their players came back. So we were right, but it was just the wrong team. It was the Washington Capitals.
All right, Michael or ENORTAP?
You want to go ENORTAP? Or?
Yeah, sure. In terms of player, I know it sounds like the easy out here, but I'm going to say Connor McDavid. Like Michael and I have spoken about this at length. This guy is on a mission this year, and I would not be surprised if he puts in, if not 60, close to 60 goals. I would not be surprised if he tries to duplicate 2 points a game for the entire year. Whether he'll achieve it, I'm not sure, but he's definitely on pace for that. The fact that they lost Evander Kane, I think, hurts his cause a little bit, but not much. He's still carrying the team. And in terms of the team, I got to go with Boston. As much as, as Montreal Canadian fans, we hate Boston, but you got to love what they're doing, and I got to give them full credit. I would never have anticipated that they'd be at 14-2 and at plus 30, especially when they had injuries to contend with. Apparently, it was supposed to be up until Christmas, but as we know, a lot of players came back earlier. But still, give them credit. They haven't lost at home yet. And on the road, they have their only 2 losses.
Bergeron in pace went out to get 78 points.
Which would probably be one of his highest years. Did he ever hit over 80 in his career?
Yeah, I think he did.
Yeah.
Michael, sorry.
14 points in 5 games is pretty good in my books. That's Mikko Rantanen. 7 goals and 7 assists in 5 games, guys. We talk about Nathan McKinnon, but this guy is a monster, and he's a different type of monster. Like he's just a quiet assassin, Like he's just such a good player. And then
he's who we want Slafkovsky to be eventually. We're hoping that's what Slafkovsky will get close to, not to the same level, but that's the template that I hope he can be.
I feel like they're very different players, though. I think Slafkovsky, you would be happier. You would expect him, if he ever achieved what you imagine, would be Svechnikov. Like he's going to be. I think his future is as a shooter. I don't see him. Rantanen is a sublime playmaker, and the way he scores goals is accuracy. I don't think he's overpowering people, even though he's 6'4". He's just a smooth, talented, smart player, and nobody looks at him. It's like, what happened?
Yeah, he's an unreal player.
Good. You got to give credit to New Jersey Devils, and I want to give a shout out to the San Jose Sharks. 3-game winning streak. I didn't expect that. So those are kind of like, I would give oranges. I'll split the orange between New Jersey and San Jose this week.
I want to make a correction here for Patrice Bergeron. Never have a season at 80 points. But
that's what I thought.
But one season he did not. He have a 1.2 average per game, so that's qualified like him have a 1 point. But he have never have a 80-point season. And 30.
If you look at his point totals, they've been extremely consistent every year.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
he's always been around 65 to 68, 69. But again, the problem he got is because he never played a full year in NHL.
Yeah, yeah.
That's crazy. We think that he played a lot of game 80, 81, but he never had a full season, full year in
Hmm.
NHL.
Is that his
That,
concussion years, like when he had those concussions? And
yeah.
He had a
So
few
never.
different
I just want to
injuries.
mention that about that. I'm surprised
Yeah,
nobody
yeah.
talk about the Seattle Kraken as an orange team.
Yeah, they were on my list.
But it's all good.
I don't.
We have to go to the opposite side, ladies and gentlemen. We want to welcome David Zucker from Florida. Thanks to David to be with us. So the next one, guys, is about the Lemon, and this one, guys, is about the Lemon team and the players. So does the team have a little bit difficulties, or the players struggle the most, disappointed? You don't have to be, the worst of the worst, but the team you was maybe more expected and they're not there yet. And again, we could have different names, different, but just sharing with each one of you what you have tonight.
Let's see. I mean,
Here, I'll go first.
it's been
Since
rough
these
watching.
guys are thinking. If you're thinking, I'll go first.
All right.
Go for it.
So I'll say, can the team and the player be on the same team? I'll go with Vancouver being the team. That's really lemony, like making my eyes squint is how lemony it is. And Demko, because again, I don't think anybody was really expecting him to just drop that far down. And again, I feel it even more bitterly because he's in my hockey pool. But yeah, to me, Demko and the Canucks, just lemon is one of my least favorite. Like when you get a lifesaver and it's lemon, I'm like, it's like my least favorite.
Oh,
So that's what
the
I feel like
best.
about the Vancouver Canucks. Yeah,
I like lemon meringue pie. I need something to cut the lemon.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. You're right. Yeah, absolutely right.
Well, you kind of took mine, so I got to think some more because
Yeah, I was
Right, man.
I was thinking of Vancouver as well, but
I was thinking
I mean,
them.
How about Ottawa, guys? Ottawa's right there.
yeah, Ottawa for sure.
They're
But
on their way out.
somehow this is not a new formula with Ottawa, right? This is 3 years in a row now that they've started off this way. And don't be surprised after a while if they're going to probably pull off the best or one of the top 2 or 3 records the rest of the way. After
They
they
trade
hit
for
maybe 40,
Hamburglar and go
50.
for it. They trade
oh
for
my
the
God.
Hamburglar and just go
They
for
do it every year and they come just short, right? And that's why I kind of don't want to throw them in that category. Maybe I would say I didn't anticipate Columbus to be as low as they are. And player wise, I mean, Michael brought up a good one in Bjorkstrom. Much more to be desired there. The easy one would always be Hoffman, of course, but we won't go
No,
there.
we promised we wouldn't bring up Hoffman for the whole show.
Yeah. So don't go there. Okay. You know what? I've got to say, even though he hasn't played horrible, but his points aren't there, and some people are going to hate me for saying it, but Austin Matthews.
Who has the worst season so far? Austin Matthews or Mike Hoffman?
Oh, Hoffman.
Who?
Same season.
Hoffman.
I go with
Yeah,
Matthews.
No,
Who's
I
had the
think
worst
Matthews
year?
has. Yeah, if you
Austin
watch
Matthews
it,
have more expectation at Mike Hoffman at the beginning of the season.
yeah, but Mike
Hoffman have
Hoffman is a
already
terrible
5
hockey
goals.
player. Yeah,
No,
but
your
if you're just
question
talking
was,
about points,
who has more points?
I'm
oh,
sorry.
he has
the
more
better year
points.
so far. Yeah, that's what I thought I heard.
Well, he was saying he was having a worse year. So again, like if we're just talking specifically about offensive production, maybe, but Matthews is still having a positive impact in most games. While, like I said earlier, is Mike Hoffman is like letting people open in the slot and not being a good hockey player in general, right? So even Matthews at 25% of his powers, I would take over Mike Hoffman. But again, we promised that we wouldn't talk about Mike Hoffman, but here we go. We always have to talk about Mike Hoffman.
Okay, I'll go with Campbell then.
That's an easy one.
Yeah.
God.
No
Well, you
controversy.
can't be
So bad.
super. Yeah. I mean, you can't be super happy with Jordan Bennington so far. That's been a complete
Ooh,
disaster.
Coach.
Um,
That one hurts for Coach. Yeah.
it's really, I love Jordy. Like I've always loved him. Like he's just a guy that you would steal games for, or for you. Like, but I mean, he's right off the rails now. I don't know what's going on. And then I got to be honest too. There's two teams that are kind of disappointing me at the moment, where you had higher expectations. One would be the Rangers, and one would be the Oilers. Like I just don't think either
Yeah.
of these teams, despite all the heroics of their star players, like they're not getting done. Maybe we just have outsized expectation of them, but right now you're like a little concerned about what's going on in both those places.
Those are two teams that most people said that they were going to be, they took a step last year, right? The Rangers, so they took that huge step. Edmonton finally wins a couple rounds and are ready, right? So you're right, like definitely kind of a thud with both those teams for sure. I can't believe nobody said Huberdeau though for the worst player, like most underwhelming player so far. Like
Jack Campbell for Steve G. Looking for to go with Jonathan Drouin.
Picking on a dead horse, guys. He's not a hockey player.
That is Nate the Panthers to miss the playoff. Coach Lemon for sending Albert to American Hockey League about that one there. You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised. Everybody thinking, but you'll be surprised. Look, and maybe left, and maybe in the next couple of weeks, a month, one they're going to be maybe send him an American Hockey League. Nothing wrong with that part over there. It's nothing wrong to put him on the bench, on the out of the game. That's just normal of the process, I believe, for me. You know what I mean?
Like, might not have a choice.
It's just curious about this. You guys, who maybe you all the way. Do you put Arbor in the out of the game, or you put Joel Munson?
The first thing, stop playing them together because that's not working. So
that's a weird.
That's the first, like that's not working at all. So you listen, like you can't sit Joel Edmondson unless there's some health related issue. You can't do it, right? So like we said earlier in the show, there's some dynamics. It's not 100% on merit. Development, they can say development is the most important thing, but there are other things that we don't know about, right? Whether it's agreements with the agent or agreements with the player when they sign them. There's all kinds of factors that I'm assuming you guys probably know better. You've worked professionally in hockey, and I haven't. But there's a lot of dynamics that go into personnel decisions other than just merit. We might, as fans, we might want to think that's what it's about. But there's probably other factors.
Locker room too. I think you have to check the locker room. Yeah, you know what I mean.
That's a good point.
If like right now we know Jordan Munson does not play great hockey right now. Like he struggled most of the game. Like maybe play his first game the season was maybe his best game. The rest he struggled. Whatever play with who he played with the Iris, Checker, everything like that. But at the end of the day, if you go that way, that should be him out at the lineup. But because the locker room, the veteran, everything like that, and the other player we're going to take about this, that's sometimes you, as a coach, you cannot those kind of decision about this. So remind us last season every time they talk about Carey Price, St. Louis said no. We're going to take one. Carey Price going to feel okay. It will always go follow the veteran about that one for sure. Just give you an idea, Mark, because ENORTAP said Austin Matthews. Austin Matthews right now is on the pace to score 33 goals this year.
That's great.
It's not going to. That's not. It's not going to stay that way.
I'm sorry.
It's not going to stay that way.
He'll get 40.
No. It'll improve, but he's not gonna pump in 50 plus. It's not gonna happen.
He might get. He might still hit 50, guys.
They have 7 goals right now in our tab, so you can multiply this, right? Yeah, 17 games, so 18, 19, or whatever. We put one more goal, that gave him 8. Four times, that's gave him like 32.
Look,
so
I didn't mean to bring him up as a disappointment, but I was making it as a comparison to what he achieved last year and where he is right now.
Oh yeah. I agree with you, ENORTAP, bringing it up as a guy that's underperformed, but I didn't agree with Coach's premise saying who's had a more successful season so far, Hoffman or Matthews. I
No,
don't
I
just
said
because Hoffman has,
no,
It's
no.
apples.
Success,
It's
expectation,
lemons and oranges.
expectation,
it's so
expectation,
Hoffman's always going to be lemons, always going to be lemons.
Oh, you're all
expectation.
wrong. Mike Hoffman's MVP.
Hey, there's all I'm gonna say is there's a reason why Connor McDavid is on a mission this year.
Oh, he want to be
Because he
number
wants to
one.
win the Rocket.
He want because he was frustrated. He did not get the MVP last season. That's the reason why.
100%, right? They went
Connor
with the
McDavid's
guy that scored 60 goals, and it should have been McDavid.
And he's never won the Rocket. He's never won the Rocket.
He's going to win the Selke. Connor McDavid's going to run the table, boys.
He's going to bring the wheelbarrow and collect all those trophies.
I think he might. And he might even win the damn Stanley Cup and the Conn Smythe.
Yeah. We have a few people in the house show up at the last minute. Randy N is in the house. We have Austin Allen is in the house. And he predicted the Knights versus the Devils at the final.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Nah.
We'll miss the playoff.
Whiteman and Harris before Aber all day long about this one over there.
If you go back to think about this, guys, if New Jersey played the Vegas in the finals, that would be Vanacek versus Thompson.
It'd also be Gary Bettman's wet dream. It'd be Gary Bettman's absolute wet dream if it was the finals.
I got $20 on Vegas.
That's a good point for Rick, Chris Harrison. That's what we said all the time. Marco said the same thing about Aber. Nothing wrong to send him in American Hockey League and coming back later. Anything like that. Yep. His biggest problem is also his penalties. That's another thing he needs to improve.
Yeah, yeah. Did you say his player card, coach? His player card was 0.
Yeah,
not because like most of his other statistics are actually pretty good, but because of the amount of penalties he takes, his overall score as a player is 0, which is rare, and so it's not great.
And again, we not said the other bad players right now. We just said they play under their expectation or right now. That's what we talk about. Matthews, nothing. He's not bad players. He's still. But again, I would say to you, has the quality player he should be. He does not carry on the team right now on his shoulder like he's supposed to be, like he did last season. Like right now, it's John Tavares right now carrying the team. That's just normal.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, for sure. Can you put up that comment that you just had up? Did somebody could just compare, say, Mike Hoffman comes to the game in Knight Rider? Is that a David Hasselhoff reference?
Is it this one?
Yeah, Hoffman shows up to games and that's awesome. That's really good, Austin.
About that one over there. So
I give a shout out to
that's got completely bit the roundtable tonight. Honestly, we passed the 2 hours. We want to keep you everything.
Thanks,
every Wednesday, guys, we do this. Just confirm with me if you want to come back. We're going to go through this until when Montreal does not play the Wednesday night. I think it would be great to have that kind of roundtable. We're going to shift the continents, everything like that, follow the NHL news, everything like this. But I think overall, that's what we're going to do. We're going to bring more people. Of course, Randy wants to come. We're going to bring other guests with us the night. And sometimes Michael travel. Marco cannot. And ENORTAP is sick. So sometimes it's happening. But otherwise, I think it's all complete. Maybe anything you want to add before you leave? Maybe one comment, each one of you. Then we're going to shut down here at the Hockey Nation Live Show, the HN Live Show.
Shout out to
Coach,
Connor Dewar had a fight and a goal this week. Former captain of the Everett was from Minnesota. And is anybody disappointed in Jordan Kiru's play in St. Louis?
Yeah.
Listen, I have my fantasy team. He got 5 points the last 2 games. So let him alone. Don't talk about him alone. Let the bear alone.
Come on, Jordan Kyrou. Let's go, buddy.
He's doing well, right? Honestly, he have 2 points tonight. The St. Louis Blues. And again, Patrice Bergeron is the heart of the Boston Bruins. The St. Louis Blues is Rand O'Reilly. That's it. Yes. That's all. And if you don't have Rand O'Reilly, nothing else over there. If Bergeron does not play, I'm telling you right now, once Bergeron is going to be retired, whatever you have, McEnroy, Marchand, Pasternak, they're going to lose the big part of the Boston Bruins culture, everything like that.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
I thought his career was over. Didn't his career was over? Like, this is a guy that willed himself, I think, back to play this year, Bergeron. Like, after last year, wasn't he supposed to be on the IR entering this year? Like, the guy is like the most serious of athletes. You got to give him total respect. Like, it's pretty impressive.
Anything else, Marco, before you leave?
They have to bring it.
No, like, Coach, I think this is the show that I've heard you speak the most. So I hope you took the opportunity to rest your voice and save it for the other shows.
Guys, I have watched 1 game and a half right now, so I can. We should do this more often for me.
Wait, Coach, are you saying you weren't listening to us?
I barely. Like, usually I never listen to you in our tab during the warm-up show.
I know.
You know that, right?
Michael
DeVilleneuve, it was great to see you aboard, Marco. Michael, anything in front of you? Trip, scouting, or whatever?
I'm going to Qatar for World Cup on Monday.
That's awesome. Enjoy with that. Nice. Have a great time. I know Michael traveled a lot. And we want to thank Michael, does all the show in the morning. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday really usually. Good. Then Marco does the ad branch, and then in October does the warm-up. So everybody is involved with this fun show, and that's make the Hockey Nation show better and better, stronger and stronger. So thanks so much, ladies and gentlemen. We wish you an amazing, great night, everybody. And I can wait to see you tomorrow night, 6 o'clock p.m. I'll be around without ENORTAP, and I will do my best to do the double hat. Until the next time, be well, be healthy. Find a way not only donate your day, but find a way to donate a second app of what?
What year is it?
2022.
No.
2022.
World War
Have
III.
an amazing, great night, everybody.
World War III. Dominate World War III.
Your sunscreen, Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Zakar. Thanks so much, Mr. Zakar from Palm Beach, Boca Raton, and thanks so much, Lipta Boston tonight. Great to see you guys. Danny T, thanks so much. Alexandre Maillard, Austin Allen, all the models of the Hockey Nation Show, Michael, Marco, and ENORTAP. Great performance, guys, tonight at the Hockey Nation Show. We want to thank everybody else. And the show tonight, we have RJ, of course, one with games. We saw earlier Austin Allen, and we have Alexandre Maillard, like I mentioned, Luther Fortune, Randy N, Chris Hansen. Stop by, everybody. Thanks so much, everybody, to be a part of the Hockey Nation Live Show. Good night.
What do I know?